You've spent years perfecting your domain. You hit every target, lead a team, and assume sprinting toward a promotion means running faster. But for many managers, the treadmill is bolted to the floor. Research from the Center for Creative Leadership reveals a specific disconnect in how people reach the top. Technical skill, the very thing that makes you a great manager, accounts for only 30% of the variance in senior leadership advancement. The remaining 70% is driven by a skill set most high performers are never taught. This creates a paradox. The traits that earn you high marks as an individual contributor can become active liabilities when you reach for an executive role. Success at the junior level relies on depth, precision, and self-sufficiency. Executive leadership, however, demands the opposite: a wide-angle lens, an appetite for ambiguity, and the ability to achieve results through others rather than through your own labor. Doubling down on your tactical execution proves you are indispensable in your current role. It does not prove you are ready to lead the company. The logic of meritocracy begins to shift once you move past the director level. At lower tiers, outputs are clear, timelines are short, and you can easily trace a result back to a specific person. At the executive level, that clarity vanishes. Decisions span across years, and success is often the result of complex market forces and macro trends where individual causality is impossible to isolate. Because organizations can no longer rely on simple output as a yardstick, they turn to a proxy, perceived trustworthiness at scale. When a board considers a candidate for a vice president role, they are asking if they can trust that person's judgment under conditions they cannot see or actively monitor. An executive promotion functions as an organizational bet on a different skill set, rather than a trophy for prior success. The formal org chart is the skeleton of the company, mapping reporting lines and formal accountability. But research suggests these rigid structures govern only 60% of decisions. The remaining 40% flows through a hidden nervous system of informal influence and alliances. This infrastructure drives projects and redirects resources long before a meeting is called to order. Harvard's Rosabeth Moss-Kanter calls this structural empowerment. It suggests that actual power is a product of where a role sits within the company's network, not just the title of the person in it. Consider two VPs with identical titles. One manages an isolated department. The other sits at the intersection of critical cross-functional dependencies. Despite the same label on their business cards, their actual leverage is incomparable. Targeting a senior title without understanding its structural position within the network often leads to a role that carries high accountability but zero actual power. Moving into the executive layer requires you to stop trading in the currency of execution and start mastering 3 informal currencies. First is information access. This involves controlling or interpreting key data streams before they are codified into official company knowledge, making you an essential node for anyone who needs to understand the why behind the numbers. Next is relational capital. This is more than having a mentor who gives advice. It is about securing a sponsor, someone with positional power who is willing to spend their own political risk to advocate for you when you aren't in the room. Third is narrative control. By strategically framing how decisions are perceived and which facts are highlighted, you can become the default reference point for the entire leadership team. Ethically navigating these currencies reflects the reality of how human systems actually allocate their resources. Transitioning to the executive frequency requires you to adopt specific behaviors long before a promotion is on the table. Start by looking beyond your own department's KPIs. Connect your team's daily work to the company's broader profit and loss statement to show you understand how the business actually makes money. Next, demonstrate financial stewardship. When you speak to readership, translate operational wins into the language of budgets, forecasts, and return on investment. Third, align your communication with your sponsor's agenda. If you can frame your team's successes as victories for your sponsor's strategic goals, you reduce the political risk of them backing you. Fourth, build horizontal coalitions. Secure alignment with peers in finance, operations, or marketing before you pitch an idea vertically to leadership. Finally, move from a problem solver who reacts to a situation to an agenda setter who proactively identifies future threats and defines the scope of the work to be done. These 5 shifts generate informal leverage, signaling to the organization that you are already operating with an executive mindset. Pursuing this level of influence comes with a significant personal cost. Holding informal executive power requires constant maintenance. You will face unpredictable reciprocity, public failures, and the kind of interpersonal stress that often competes with the work itself. This pressure often leads to a specific type of career failure. 61% of derailed executives point to a collapse in trust and relationships as the primary cause, outstripping failures in strategy or technical performance. Participating in this game is a choice, but staying blind to its existence is a guarantee of stagnation. Once you recognize the invisible architecture of your company, you gain the ability to become the architect of your own ascent.